What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by a very special guest yet again. We got Wicked back previously doing a lot of Doom stuff, me and him, but we thought, we're coming up on the Outer Worlds 2. It's a game that, and we'll talk about in this video, we both went into the Outer Worlds now trying to give it some love, almost trying to understand why other people love it. I'll let Wicked tell his story of, maybe originally when it came out, but I think we're going to have some interesting things to say. We played a decent amount. We're not all the way through it, but we're just, here to talk about the Outer Worlds in 2025 as, 6 years later, here we are getting ready for the Outer Worlds 2, almost releasing like close to the same date, 6 years after, obviously on Game Pass and all that jazz. So Wicked, welcome to the channel. If you guys want to subscribe to him, of course, I'm going to leave all his stuff in the description below. Thank you for being here, man. And how are you?
Doing good, man. Thank you for having me yet again. I don't know why I keep getting brought back, but I love it. I'm always happy to do it. I'm excited to probably have another controversial take because I feel like that's what I'm here for.
This game is a lot slower paced than Doom. We're used to talking about some of the fastest, first-person shooters, I think, on the
Yeah.
face of the earth. This is not, this is a very different type game. So, well, let me start with you. So, game comes out, again, almost 6 years ago, 2019. Did you play it then? Like, what's your story leading into 2025?
All right. So in 2019, at this time when it came out, October, if I'm correct, then I would have been in my senior year of high school playing games like Call of Duty, and that's pretty much it. I wasn't really big into games like Fallout. I had played a little bit of Fallout New Vegas at that point, but I hadn't fully dove into the world of it. And really the closest thing that I had ever played to a game like this would have been Skyrim. So I wasn't on my radar at all, wasn't something that I was really involved in. I was on PC at the time, so a lot of my buddies on Xbox actually played the game when it came out, but for me personally, I just wasn't really into it until I started seeing all the sequel talk this year. For some reason, I forgot about it. I think that when I started playing kind of more single player, longer games, I dove into No Man's Sky instead of something like this. So I think for me, it just missed my knowledge loop, and it wasn't even on my backlog list, which I'm surprised about because that list for me is way longer than it is probably healthy.
Yeah, I mean, when this game comes out, I get it physically, right before, 2020, year of COVID and all that stuff, and I just didn't jive with it. This was a game that I wanted specifically, that I got you involved as well because I thought maybe we'd be on similar pages. I just could not get into it. I played maybe 5, 6, 7 hours. It really wasn't all that much, but that was an era, where I struggled to get through even good games, games that I consider, I should say, because I think you can see a lot of good in the Outer Worlds, especially now. But I just couldn't do it. So I actually not returned it, but I traded it in at the time to Amazon and never thought twice about it. I really would prefer it back right now, just to add to that physical collection. But here we are. So both of us kind of, whether it was never on your radar like you or somewhat for me, but I actually didn't really like it. So it was harder to kind of convince myself to give it a second try. Here we are. We've both put pretty similar, like you said, 15. I've put around like 13, 14. So we're really close to probably like almost the exact same spot of the game. Okay, so I'll let you go first and you can handle the controversy for me because I do have some good things to say. I mean, we'll get there. But so what do you think about it? Like, can you get why people, I mean, it's generally a well-received game, right? It's not like overly well-received, but it's like people like it. Some people maybe like it more than others. So like, what do you think about it now and, both good or bad?
So for me, when I started playing this game, when we started talking about it a little bit ago, I had just finished like my full first Obsidian kind of dive into the remaster or remake that released. And I was very expecting an RPG experience. I think my own brain, for some reason, I thought this was going to be an open world, like another game that I could just go anywhere I pleased. And it's not that. This game is a lot more linear. This is very much an Obsidian game. And I think it comes with a lot of good. But just for my own self, I can see why some people would love things like the humor, the combat, things that I necessarily don't like. And it kind of sits in the same vein as Starfield. I can understand why some people might really love that game, and that might be someone's favorite game of all time. And this game might be the same. And I've seen that with kind of researching for this kind of collaboration here. But for me personally, I think that there was some good in things like the writing. I felt like there was a lot of good and fun moments. And I think just the idea of a game trying to tackle corporatalization of just like the universe is actually really cool. But I feel like in itself, and I wanted to ask you too how you felt about the writing, because I feel like compared to games like Fallout New Vegas, this game lacked a ton of nuance. And I feel like there was a lot of kind of in your face moments, at least for the first kind of portion of the game.
For me, like, and I'm pretty close to what you just said. Like, I think because it's so linear, and I actually kind of appreciate that. You know, when I think about Skyrim or I think about Starfield, there's a difference between these games that are 40, 50, 60 hours and exploration is like everything versus a game like this. Now, there is a little bit of exploration. You know, a lot of the side stuff you get in this game, you'll be walking and then all of a sudden like a person will shout at you, right? There's a guy that talks about like the audition. I don't know if you did that side mission where you audition for like the movie, and he's just like standing there. Like you could walk right by him, but he caught my attention. You talk to him. It's normally NPCs that have names, right? When they're called residents, they're not people to talk to, but if they have a name, most likely there's something for them to say. So I really appreciated that almost like on rails, simplified. You know, I think that's and sometimes that gets in its own way. Like you said, I think some things are just they're very like in front of your face. You know, what you kind of expect to happen is what's going to happen. It's not all that deep. But on the other side of things, I will say, in some ways, I kind of appreciate that where even just, I mean, main missions are just a series of consequential actions. You know what I mean? Like, it's just always, hey, you do this, you're screwing over a colony, or you can kill somebody or not. Or, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to literally do one thing or the other. And I will say, like, it feels impactful in that moment, but it's only one thing. So, the limitation kind of gets in its way, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I can kind of say, well, it's a pretty small game. I mean, like, we've played about 15 or so hours. The game as a whole, even if you do everything, I mean, it's only like 20, 30, 35 hours. Like, there's not a lot here. I was actually surprised Ellie, one of the, companions, I did her side quest in like 5 minutes. Like, I thought there'd actually be more to it. And the other ones I do think actually have somewhat longer side missions, but hers is just so short. And I got the achievement for finishing a side quest. And I was like, oh my God, that's it? And there's, I think 6 companions in the whole game. So I kind of went back and forth, because I think that the size helped it at times for me personally and then hurt it. So what did you think? I mean, you mentioned it too. And so now so when you went into this, you didn't know then that it was more like a contained kind of experience. So how did you, what did that feel like to you?
I enjoyed the fact that it was linear. I think that a lot of the good that I took away from this game is just kind of prompted up by the linearness of it. Like I really enjoyed actually the companions that I got to experience a lot. I don't really think there was one that I didn't really vibe with all that bad. I liked a lot of the dialogue options too, and I think that helps with the game being linear.
Yeah.
Again, it definitely kind of took me by surprise, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that obviously if the sequel is also just as linear, but some of the things are fleshed out more, I think that's a really good change. I don't really think that this game needed to be something like No Man's Sky or even Starfield in terms of just how large certain things are. I do think that even though I really enjoyed how this game looked and a lot of kind of the scenic shots in different areas, I do wish at points that it was a little more open. But I think in general, I enjoyed a more linear. I'm a more linear person anyway. Like I love my 80 to 100 hour games too, but I think anywhere from 15 to 20 for me personally is kind of my hot spot. So.
Yeah. There's a couple moments of one of the I forget the planet's name, but there's a time, I think I captured it, so hopefully I can show it, but like you're outside and there's like a, whether it's a moon or another planet is like right there. Like it's way too close to you. It's a really nice, because the game, the game's got a lot of colors, right? It's got a lot of like weird creatures that are like in like a foresty type thing, or it's got a lot of like floral things, a lot of different colors there. I think when you go outside is actually when it's at, definitely when it's at its prettiest. I was kind of fine with the way that the faces and the movements there. I actually thought that was, now I don't know what enhancements, like I didn't really look into that. I was playing on Series X, so I don't know if, there's an enhancement there, but I thought overall visually. Now I wanted to ask you, I want to just quickly say kind of my play style, because I do think that's, while we're talking about, like the dialogue and some of the writing stuff, how you play this game is pretty important as well. And again, it being so, as much as it is linear, I can appreciate like the leveling up that you do very quickly. You gain a lot of, I think you gain what, like 10, is it skill points or perk points, where you can actually, like, whether it's intimidate or like two-handed weapons or one-handed, stuff like that. And then you can have your actual perks, right? And those are unlocked less. So I don't know about you. I want to hear, how you did your style. For me, I learned pretty early on that I really liked the idea of persuading, lying, and intimidating. So that is where, I'm sitting here now, and maybe even some of my footage will reflect it. I'm in the 70s in terms of like the skill point on those. So I can go pretty much anywhere. And if there's like a persuasion that's like 50 or 60, I can still do it. And I really, to me, that helps, because I do think it's just fun to kind of like, and also I'll say this, and again, I want to hear from you. I really didn't take this game all that seriously, because I didn't care about it all that much after the first time, right? I was going in saying, okay, I'm not, because sometimes, I don't know about you, like Mass Effect or things like that, I do like to take it very seriously. I like to think, okay, if I'm that character, what am I doing in that situation? I actually did like the dumb playthrough, so I was stupid, so I had the dumb option nonstop, and then like I just, which is kind of funny because I was dumb, but then also my persuasion and intimidation and lying was so freaking high that I could talk myself, except for like when engineering or science, like when those things would pop up. That was like my second one. Those ones are in like the 50s. So I focus so much on talking, and I'll just tell you to end my part here, I loved that element of it because I think that was just so fun. Some of the jokes, like when you take things very literally because you're so stupid, I freaking love that. I like the ability to just persuade and get what I want, which just by talking it out. And even earlier on, I think you go to like the underbelly of that one city, and there's like those mercenaries. I just kept going with the persuasion and stuff until I was able to talk my way through versus fighting. With that being said, to me, I hated the combat. And whether that's because I was underleveled or underpowered because I went full on talking, that could be my own fault. But I just felt because I did that, the shooting, anytime I had to actually shoot my way through, I hated it. I think the game is clunky. That generally games like this are clunky, but I just really had absolutely, I think I'm confident in saying, this is my controversial take of the video, I had no fun. No fun. And it actually is what stopped me every night, is if I couldn't talk my way out and I had to shoot my way out, that's normally where I said, okay, I'll play it the next day. Like, I'm going to stop it here. So, okay, that's my part over. How did you play it?
So very similarly, very much wanted to go the talking route, because as we've discussed in earlier videos, especially in the Doom videos, I am usually like a head first run in, give me any melee weapon that I can get my hands on, and I will do it. And I tried really hard to play the game that way, but I have to agree with you that I think the combat system in this game is the biggest letdown for me personally. I just was so bored by it, and it was so surprising to me because a lot of the guns and even the melee weapons and really just everything felt very almost Borderlands like. A lot of the weapon designs were really cool. Some of the enemy types I thought were downright awesome, but it just felt really meh. There was a lot of blandness, a lot of I don't know if it comes from how the weapons themselves actually felt. Maybe it did come from me playing with a more talkative persuasion approach. I really found myself really trying to be just sneaky at some points, because I did try the stealth tree a lot to try and just sneak my way past everything because I wanted to avoid the combat. It just wasn't a fan for me. I also really don't like, I don't want to say looter shooters, because I don't think this game is on that level, but I think it's like teetering to that level. There's so much of the same loot that you get constantly. The armor, the enemies, especially, are just the things that I think disappointed me the most, because it just at times you would kill a bunch of enemies and you would go to loot and it would be the same loot across all of them.
Yeah.
And it was just like an endless scroll to try to find the best number, which, I mean, that's a pretty stock standard thing for games like this. I feel like every RPG has a level or a number system to loot, which can be a good or bad thing. And I think that this game kind of drops the ball in that regard. I do wish that I played the dumb playthrough. I told myself not to give myself a better experience. And the dumb playthrough looks and sounds like it was the better experience. I did run into, though, stupid characters that I thought that was fantastic. I thought that the characters themselves, when they were stupid, was great. I just kind of wish I was expecting more from the combat system, especially because I feel like when this game was marketing itself, there was a pretty decent amount of marketing around combat, and it just kind of fell flat for me.
And you look at Outer Worlds 2, and I don't know whether to look at it as a pro or con, right? And like, we're living in this era of a lot of marketing for that, and there's a lot. I think when they showed it off at the Xbox event, like half of it was combat and setting up kind of being like a sentry type thing. So hopefully that's been something that they overhauled, because I mean, and again, it could just be how we played it, but I think you said it really well. See, it's the systems I think is the issue, and I mean the feeling of the weapon. I don't think a lot of it feels right. It might feel better like if we were more powerful in that way. Then obviously maybe we're dealing more damage and getting through things easier. But like you said, I think it's a systems thing where it's like there's so much of the same. I would look around everywhere, and you would end up seeing the exact same 5 guns, that you already have. And I found some of my favorite guns maybe when I was like level 10, and now I'm like 19, and I'm still using like 3 of the 4 of the weapons that I found when I was level 10, because so many of them just repeat. And I mean it's a fine line, and it's a fine just thing that companies try to perfect in these games, where it's like, where do you put that like elite loot, what I mean? Borderlands has done it along with many others, and I just don't think there were sometimes like I found like gold helmet, gold armor, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, just the fact that it said gold, I thought that was cool, and then you look at it and it's like, okay, that was actually the most powerful number game type thing that I had. So sometimes they would do it, but other times it would be locked behind doors that was like 100 lock picking. And I tried to upgrade lock picking, but I wasn't going to get it because I wanted to do. Look, the game I think does do a pretty okay job at that, where you have to prioritize. You can't be good at everything. So I chose, just talking, which means I was not good at, physical kind of stuff. And, while I tried to do, the science-y stuff and the stealth lockpicking stuff, that was like, B tier or C tier, so I couldn't lockpick my way out of a lot of situations. And maybe that's where the best loot was. I don't really know. But I think you nailed it there, where I think it's just it's the system of where they put these things, and the fact that it doesn't feel, a lot of these games, like you have to make it feel like you're constantly progressing. And I think they do that with leveling, because the quests have a good pacing to them. I really think none of them really are all that drawn out. I think there is some really solid writing there, and it feels good, and you're bouncing from quest to quest to quest. It's just and when you're leveling up, you're gaining perks and abilities, and that feels good. But the stuff that you're actually walking around with, that is not, it doesn't have that evolution that when you're level 15 to 20, okay, there's a jump there. It doesn't feel like that. But I mean, and also to the dumb comment, I don't really know if it added something. Like, I don't really think the characters change all that much. Like, it's just like dialogue. You'll say something stupid, and some will laugh it off with you, and then some will like take you seriously, where they'll be like, how can this buffoon like actually be like leading a ship because of how he's talking? So sometimes it honestly led easily to the most funny moments. That's where I would actually chuckle, not normally to what I would say, but what the character would say back after I take something very, very literally.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just kind of frustrated, because I really, really wanted to enjoy this game, and I don't think this game is bad. I don't want people to think that I'm saying, or even you're saying, that this game is like a bad game, right? But yeah. I feel like, I don't know about you, I feel like this game is like the peak of aggressive mediocrity. Like, this game is so middle of the pack for me. Like if I had to give it a number, gun to my head, I'd probably say 6 and
Yeah.
nothing more. Like I really wanted to enjoy it more. I think too, I'll touch on this really quick and maybe you can add to it. I felt like the music in this game was just straight banging the entire time. I loved the music, but there was like the same 5 tracks. Like I don't know if it's because of where I got to the game and there just wasn't a lot more, but
Yeah.
I why did we not go with our strengths here? Like the music and some of the level designs were just outright fantastic in my opinion at certain points, and I've heard that the DLC kind of capitalizes on this, but I
Yeah.
don't think you should rely on DLC to capitalize on your strengths because it just doesn't really make sense to me. Even though I have the luxury of getting the game with the DLC now, if I would have gotten it in 2019, I would have probably felt a little gypped.
Right. No, totally. I think it's got some nice sounds. It's got some good music. I think honestly, well voice acted, everybody's pretty darn good. And again, I don't really think any of them really overstay their welcome. Like I want to just highlight in terms of one of my strengths, I would say like, I really felt I was bouncing from quest to quest to quest rather quickly, and nothing really was, overstaying its welcome. I think I put a little bit more stock, I think, into the writing. I think it's like I said in the beginning. I think, when they set out, I think, to make a lot of things impactful. And to be fair, I think a lot of things are very impactful. There's a side mission of a worker who would steal medicine and then treat people, and then they went to a house, right, and it's cannibals. I don't know if you saw that one, but I mean, that was it lasted like 8-9 minutes, and you go into a house, and it felt very much like Walking Dead, Telltale's Walking Dead, like episode 2, when they go through the cannibal. It
Oh
felt
yeah.
exactly like that, and I thought it was a really well written. It was 5-10 minutes. It was there. It was just a pocket, its own thing. I think where the game really lets you down is where it kind of makes you think that there's more. It gives you that illusion, or again, like really any time. And I'm not good at stealth. I mean, I tried. So really, the game boiled down to either I can talk my way out of it or I can't. Like I'll have to fight. There was really no, okay, well, you can stealth, or you can. I was told in some missions, well, you could hack something. Well, I couldn't find the terminal, and then if I did find the terminal, I would get caught before then, so I'd have to fight. So it was literally just fight or talk, fight or talk. And I actually really like the talk. I mean, if I look at it like that, I would give the game a 5. Realistically, I would give it probably far higher than that. But that's really what the game boiled down to me is that I think pretty darn good characters, good writing. It played to its strengths a good amount of time. Anytime it moved away from its strengths, it became a far below average. It wasn't even average. I'd say it was below average game. So what are your, I'll just end it here. I mean, what are your kind of finishing thoughts? Also, we didn't really say, I mean, I'm going to play Outer Worlds 2 when it comes out. Are you?
I'm gonna play it. It's gonna be on my backlog for probably a sale, because if they gave this game DLC, they probably will give the sequel DLC. I don't care if they say they're not going to, because I do not believe that until we're at the 5-year mark. But I mean, I'm gonna give it a try. It is on Game Pass, I believe, so
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of a sin not to, when it's a game that was $80 and then dropped down to 70, which we won't talk about. I want to try it. I'm going to be very, very wary and very much paying attention to how the combat feels. And just, you brought up the stealth, and I'm a huge, stealth is like my favorite thing. Thief is one of the best games ever made, and I'll die on that hill. The stealth in this game was just abysmal. It felt like I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 before they fixed the game. A lot of just the same crouch and walk and get caught, and I don't know, but I definitely will try the sequel. I'm excited. I think it looks really good. It does scare me though that they made a first game kind of like roasting corporations and greed, and then Outer Worlds 2 was going to be their first $80 game. So that does frighten me a
Yeah.
little bit, that they kind of are going at themselves with that. So we'll see.
Yeah. There's a place for this game. I think that's kind of where I would end. I
Yeah,
think that's kind of
yeah.
what both of us were getting at this whole time. There's a place for it. I think, with Game Pass and the DLCs, I think, at times it's an above average game, and I enjoyed it, I would say, overall. Like I did have some fun. I definitely, well, I can say this with utmost confidence, I loved it far, far more now than I did, 6 years ago. I just didn't understand why it was a thing. I wasn't into it, and it was gone within like 2-3 days back to Amazon, for $42 where I spent 60 on it. So a net negative there. But, nowadays I can definitely, I can appreciate it. I can see why people do like it. I think it has a place, here, and we'll see how Outer Worlds 2 does. So again, I want to thank Wicked for being here. If you guys want to check him out, all of his stuff will be in the description. Really appreciate you being here, man. We always have a lot of fun. And I know this was definitely a different, type experience versus Doom.
Yeah, I'm always happy to be here. Always happy to be involved, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. And I think both Alex and I can agree that if The Outer Worlds is your favorite game of all time, then power to you. We're just two dudes talking about video games because we love games. So don't take it too seriously. This game is miles better than Starfield, and I'll die on that hill too. Whoa. This game is way better. If you're between the two, choose Outer Worlds.
Oh my God. That was the hottest take of all, and you left it for the very end. We appreciate you being here. Let us know what you think about that, and we will see you all on the next one.